Yes.
I'm very respectful, and, all Mr. Wade had to do is pick up the phone. I mean, I don't understand. He's an investigator. He knows how to investigate. I looked at his credentials, all of his awards and certificates that he got, but what's a
and welcome to Sandy Hook Facts at sandyhookfacts.com. You can reach our blog by simply typing in wadesvids.com, or you can go to our website, view the links, and click on the Blogspot link. Today is June 27th, 2015, and today we are going to look at Wolfgang Halbig's Sandy Hook hoax.
And a few people have a question, so I thought I'd ask you if you don't mind. Okay. So there's a lot of people that, think you're a fraud, and then there's a lot of people that think you're not a fraud, and so we were just wondering if you could talk to us in German.
Ja, ich spreche Sie durch, mein Liebchen. Ich was geboren in Heidelberg, Deutschland.
Okay, that sounds good. Do you know any more?
I'll have to.
Well, I can understand it more than I can speak, but I can give you the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you look at my accent,
We all know what happened December 14th, 2012. It was a tragedy of epic proportions. It can be described as nothing less than a war crime. A very disturbed individual took a very powerful weapon, entered an elementary school, and gunned down 20 children and 8 adults. 2 of the adults survived, and this began what is now known as the Sandy Hook tragedy. Subsequent to the Sandy Hook tragedy was another tragedy, and this was the invention by a lot of people on the internet of a hoax. I have come to learn since beginning to research that this is a very orchestrated and intentionally contrived thing where groups of people get together and they fabricate from whole cloth evidence and put it out as real. They manipulate photos, they manipulate videos, they omit important information, they misrepresent the facts, or they literally invent it. They literally fabricate it. We saw the Sandy Hook's hoax group has done that a couple of times recently, first with the Flex Fit hat, and then they did it again with this fake FEMA drill thing, that we discovered that you can just get it online and fill it out. So, and they uploaded it to their Angel Fire account and then, pretend that's a real FEMA document. But of course you can't get it from FEMA because it was never on FEMA's anything. It was never a FEMA document. And so that's what you have is those people. I would say probably one of the most villainous of the Sandy Hook hoaxers. His name is Wolfgang Halbig. Wolfgang Halbig is a very smart man. He's a very slick talker. He's very smooth. He's very affable. He's got that down-home country twang, and he is in large measure responsible for the perpetuation of the myth that's called Sandy Hook hoax. Today we're going to look at his tactics that he's used to perpetuate this hoax, words he used. He changes his story from interview to interview and day to day, and he does these intentionally in order to present himself and his side as part of campaigns to raise money for what we've come to learn is a registered charitable organization in Florida. From the very beginning, Wolfgang Halbig has promised to file federal lawsuits. He's actually done 2 things. He's done a FOI hearing. He probably dumped, it has to be at least $20,000 in total expenses and attorney fees at least into this FOI hearing. At the end of the FOI hearing, in the closing arguments, all that his attorney asked for was the consent agenda from whatever date it was they were talking about. the date escapes me, which he's already received, and they ask for dash cams that they've already received. They somehow want the chief of police of Newtown to enable closed captions for them because they apparently can't right-click it, even though I've specifically shown this to Halbig's attorney in an email, sent her the link so that she could, conduct a reasonable inquiry that would be expected of a officer of the court. It's okay that Wolfgang Halbig sits there and apparently drools on himself and can't figure out how to right-click it and enable closed captions. But for an officer of the court to be accusing an entire town of what would literally, if true, would be the worst things imaginable, and not conduct the simplest investigation whereby she right-clicks the video and enables closed caption and discovers that she is misrepresenting to the commission that the videos that they have do not have timestamps. In fact, she emailed me back and she said, it's undeniable they don't have timestamps. No, it's not. They have the same videos I have. You just right-click them and enable timestamps. So $20,000 has been blown into that. And then he's filed a civil lawsuit attacking blogs, attacking Google users, attacking WordPress users, and the things he named, among other things, include that they used images of him, of his fat head on a fat body, and this kind of thing. So I wrote a blog post about that, exposing exactly what he's doing out there. So he's absolutely using the funds he's raising to engage in an attack on the First Amendment. So that's the use of the funds. He's not going after anybody that was involved in Sandy Hook. He's not going after any news organizations. He's not going after anybody. He's going after just a petty little attack on people that have made him mad. People who have called him out. Since this is going on, it is very important to expose Wolfgang and his statements and show so that anybody who might come looking for information on what Halbig has said, for instance, judges, attorneys, defendants looking for help, then you can easily find this guy. First thing to realize about Wolfgang Halbig is he is a public figure. He has thrust himself into the news. I would go so far as to say he is a famous public figure. He's gone on so many international programs, radio shows and such, and put himself out there so much. He's literally a famous public figure of the level of any famous person. That is his level of fame. That is where he stands. He's definitely a public figure, whether you argue he's a limited purpose or a full-fledged public figure. There's no doubt he's a public figure, at least a limited purpose for Sandy Hook purposes. For him to show slander, he would have to show that someone was saying stuff with him with reckless disregard for the truth. Hardly the things I've heard said about him are all completely true. Definitely truth could come in defense. So as we listen to Wolfgang Halbig and his double talk and his changing his side of the story and his getting facts incorrect, so I decided to make a video documenting in one spot many of his either more controversial statements, more controversial claims, when he gets facts outright wrong, when he misrepresents history, when he misrepresents facts, when he says one thing one day and another thing another day. So I wanted to put those all in one video, and I call this video Wolfgang Halbig's Sandy Hook Hoax. He has his own version of the hoax that he pushes on a near daily basis, at least. As we've started to look into his past, it seems like there is a history here. He didn't just fall out of the sky and be able to be as good of a talker, let's say, as he is. Definitely not his first rodeo. As we've listened to things he's said in the past, he's even said the same things, but he said them about other issues, the mold and these type of things. These are not new to him. He's said this stuff all before for other issues. And the first thing we're going to get into is he has said numerous times, and I could have pulled numerous clips, that Sandy Hook is not a functioning school. There have been numerous articles written on this, and there have been many videos made on this. The mountain of evidence to show that that school was operational is overwhelming, and it's all online, and Mike Flagg has a lot of it online. Easy to get to. I have links from my blog that make it easy to get to, and we're talking about getting into old PTA minutes and expenses, nonprofit filings, these kind of things. They're all out there. Newspaper articles, pictures, photos, videos. It's all there. Events, special events, Veterans Day, 2012, etc., etc., etc. He's FOIA'd the work orders, then he FOIA'd the emails, and I was almost going to get those emails, and I just decided not to. If I had unlimited money like he seems to have, wherever he gets his funding, I guess I would blow $70 to get Hochsprung's email. You know, he's got the evidence that's fully functional. So after he said so many times that the school is not functional, we'll just play one of those clips. In this clip, he actually claims to have witnesses from Newtown have come forward and given him this information. Okay, so he's pretty sure of himself in this one. And then you'll hear in the right after that, he's gonna say, now that he's gotten all of his emails and everything, oh, well, it was functioning for special education kids or something like that. So this is what you get, different stories day to day that he comes up with. So let's go with the first one here.
Yeah, the next step is right now we're in the process of filing our first civil lawsuit.
Okay.
And it's going to be at the federal level, not the state level.
Okay.
Because I think there's so much corruption within the state that we're not going to go anywhere. So I think at the federal level, at least we'll have a chance because we're using a input toward litigation.
So here he is on Pizza and Tilly. He clearly states he's getting ready to file his first federal lawsuit, and it's going to be at the federal level. That lawsuit has never been filed. The only lawsuit he's filed is a state lawsuit against a couple of bloggers.
Now having a game plan, being an old head football coach, you got to have a game plan. And I think now we have the game plan. I've got 2 attorneys drafting the federal civil lawsuits. Got 2 attorneys drafting the federal civil lawsuits. And I think now we have the game plan. I've got 2 attorneys drafting the federal civil lawsuits. And we're going to try to get those submitted as quickly as possible. I'm not going to investigate anything else.
No. But Richie also tell your listeners if they can find it in their heart to help donate a little money for our legal bills, it is a fight. We are taking on the United States government.
And it's not cheap, Wolfgang.
If they can help, I'd appreciate it. And I don't know what else to say. I'm trying the best I can.
You're doing a
Taking on the United States government. He's not taking on the United States government. He's taking on a few bloggers. He's not taking on anybody.
Well, you know what? They need to get ready, Alex. We're coming. If you could be in my office right now today, beyond a reasonable doubt, we have all of the evidence. People anonymously have now come forward from Newtown. We now have documents that will, without a doubt, show that that school did not exist. It was not an operation.
Well, you better release those as soon as possible, or they're going to end up, I mean, you know what happens to people. They're going to claim you suicided yourself. They'll probably take some of your family out, claim you killed them to demonize you. That's how they do it now. They kill you and your family.
Well, you know, first of all, before you read it, I want you again, this is July 19th. Remember, I've always said, and verify it, I've always said part of that school is working, okay? I think there's about 90 kids that are going to that school every day, special needs kids, okay?
People anonymously have now come forward from Newtown. We now have documents that will, without a doubt, show that that school did not exist. It was not an operation.
Remember, I've always said, and verify it, I've always said part of that school is working, okay? I think there's about 90 kids.
You've been or you've not.
Well, they trained me. Think about it. Everything that I've learned is, Justice trained me. I mean, for U.S. Customs, Florida State Trooper, they trained me at the academy. I learned how to lie. I mean, they trained me how to lie.
Okay, a little bit of irony where Halbig talks about all these vast worldwide conspiracies and claims he's not a conspiracy theorist. Of course, we have the blog post from Lake County where they were calling him a tinfoil hatter a number of years ago.
Not different. The Fetzer's, he's into Sandy Hook, but every time we talk, he always wants to bring up 9/11. He wants to talk about JFK. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I mean,
Sandy Hook is an American game changer. When we solve Sandy Hook, it's going to expose Boston bombing, it's going to expose 9/11, it's going to go down to JFK. This government is running amok. They are using us and using our emotions, and guess what? They're using the national news media, NBC, CBS. It has to start, Mike, or we're just going to sit there and just, look like a bunch of crazy conspiracy nuts.
Holy Benedict Arnold.
Okay, well, do you think it's possible that these people are clever enough to have staged something like that and planted seeds through a Batman movie?
Absolutely.
You just used the A word. You just said absolutely.
Absolutely.
Holy red herring. Holy schizophrenia.
Well, I saw that. It's just, you know what, it's the best illusion that this government has ever put over the American people's eyes. I mean, I'm serious. It's an illusion. It's better than David Copperfield.
There's a vein, isn't there? Remind me of the
Absolutely.
vein. Yeah.
There is a huge vein.
He bleed to death, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sitting there looking at it and I think Boston, I think once we solve Sandy Hook, we're coming after Boston bombing. And people need to get angry. They need to get these congressmen. They're a bunch of cowards for not looking at the truth. These senators and U.S. House of Representatives, they ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Wolfgang, this poor guy, I say poor because he looks bewildered, this Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, he's obviously innocent then, this guy. Jesus help him. His brother was shot to death by the police. I don't know how.
And now he's going on and on about Boston bombing and how that guy's so innocent. Ugh. Boston bombing guys, they don't get as much play as the Sandy Hook hoaxers, but they are vile people. And I'm not surprised to see Halbig joining that camp.
Okay, all righty. Now, you mentioned that you were involved in Columbine, and you were called as an expert witness at Columbine?
I wasn't called. I worked as an expert in researching the response of how law enforcement, SWAT team, and the paramedics responded to Columbine.
Tell me, what did happen that day?
Well, as a national school safety consultant and being an expert witness back in Columbine, back in 1999, we learned all there is about active shooter protocols. Well, now we shifted to Sandy Hook, and we look at Sandy.
You mentioned that you were involved in Columbine, and you were called as an expert witness at Columbine?
I wasn't called. I worked as an expert in researching the response of how law enforcement.
And being an expert witness back in Columbine, back in 1999.
You were called as an expert witness at Columbine?
I wasn't called. I worked as an expert in researching the response.
One of Halbig's hoaxes that I've been pointing out all along and that he continues to maintain concerns the FBI report from Columbine. He has two claims. The first one, he claims that the entire report is available online, and that's untrue. And he claims that it was never classified. That's also untrue. The report was classified for 3 years until it was unclassified. They eventually released about 300 pages of their report. They redacted several of the pages and they put it online. And that's all they've willingly released. You can go to their website right now and you can, read the, I think it's less than 300 pages summary that they have there. But if you recall, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold had a friend named Brooks Brown. They let him go at the beginning of the shooting, and prior to the shooting, they had threatened him, and the parents had called the police, and you probably remember that. Well, his father FOIA'd the full report. They eventually released it to him. They gave him 1,791 pages of the 2,176 pages that they have, and they kept the rest of those pages confidential or classified, if you want to call it that. And they released to him 1,791 pages, and he put those available on a website, and that's the only reason we can get the full FBI report on Columbine, is because of Brooks Brown's father. We'll call him Mr. Brown. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head, but that's how we got it. Oh, his name's Randy Brown.
Which means that it had to go through the process of classification. Once it's gone through this process of classification, this same exact thing happened at Columbine. Did that information get classified as well?
No, sir. You can go on the FBI website in Washington, D.C., and you can go on to Hot Topics, you can click on it, and you today can see the entire Columbine FBI, not the state, not the city, but the FBI investigative report is posted right on their website.
Another one of Halbig's hoaxes that he pulls is that he claims none of the parents went on the TV and got interviewed after Columbine. I think it's blatantly untrue, and it's demonstrably false.
The point I'm trying to make in Columbine, you did not see any parents of those students who died on that day on national TV. You did not see them on national TV the next day, the next day. You didn't see them the next week. You know why? Ghosts, they were home grieving. They were hurting. They were in pain. They were suffering. They lost a child that they watched grow up. You go to Sandy Hook, you got these parents on national TV the next day, all dressed up, smiling. Their eyes are white as could be. There are no tears. There's no grieving. I don't know how that was done.
What is the, as far as
And Isaiah Scholes, gunned down perhaps because he was black.
They shot him, I don't know how many times it was, but they shot him, and then they go, is that black guy dead over there yet? You know.
Isaiah wanted to be a comedian.
Everything that he needed, he had it, you know. He studied, everything that Isaiah needed, Isaiah had it. Yeah.
His father resisted the truth as long as he could.
Any parents of those students who died on that day on national TV.
I was in denial all day yesterday. I knew it yesterday that he wasn't going to come back.
To the rest of the world, victims. To those who knew them, much, much more.
In Littleton today, they are reflecting on lives ended and lives forever changed. In the parking lot at Columbine High, the car Rachel Scott drove to school Tuesday morning has become a shrine to her memory.
Any parents of those students who died on that day on national TV.
A family of 5 children, Rachel was the spark plug, says her father, Daryl.
There's a gap that's never going to be filled. She was the bubbly part of my family.
He didn't make his bed before he went to school.
In the bedroom of his slain son Isaiah, Michael Scholes remembers an 18-year-old
any
looking
parents
to the future.
Of those students who died on that day on national TV. You did not see him on national TV the next day, the next day. You didn't see him the next week.
I know he would have been one of the best. I could never be what my son could have.
Parents has caused families to be divided. I mean, people are being told insane. People are being, look at me. I've been married 42 years. I'm about to get divorced over this because my wife thinks I have mental health issues.
Okay, so you saw those. Parents and family members and classmates and such did go on the TV and were interviewed. These are just sales pitches that contained false information as part of what he does to raise funds online.
Mine's always about, because I'm a trainer for FEMA, I'm an incident command trainer for FEMA, so I know what our response protocol is supposed to be.
To address the FEMA certificate he has, any one of you can go get that certificate. It'd take you an hour or two on the FEMA.gov website. Doesn't mean he's a trainer. It doesn't mean anything. All it means is he took an online course called Incident Command from FEMA, and it's a very short course, so you can go online, take the course, and print out your certificate, and you can run around like Halbig and claim that you're a FEMA Incident Command trainer. Okay?
Well, as a former state trooper, through all of the training, I worked in Miami, Florida, 1974 through 77.
A lot of his claims as a state trooper seem to not jive up. Sometimes he claims he was a trooper for more than 1 year, and sometimes he claims he was only a trooper for 1 year. Sometimes he claims he was only, on his resume, he claims he was only a trooper for 1 year. Sometimes verbally, he claims it's 2, 3 years, 4 years, who knows.
I worked in Miami, Florida, 1974 through 77. Through all of the training, I worked in Miami, Florida, 1974 through 77, and you would not believe, we did not have trauma helicopters. We didn't have
trauma centers. We didn't have helicopters. We didn't have the jaws of life. And then I noticed no trauma helicopters. Come on. I've been a state trooper. I watch every day, vehicle accidents, heart attack. We got helicopters in the air in a heartbeat.
We did not have trauma helicopters. We didn't have
heart attack. We got helicopters in the air in a heartbeat. It's really upsetting to me being a former police. It really bothers me because I've seen death every day in Miami. And I've been in the morgue. I've seen autopsies. I've seen over 200 autopsies. I know what it's like to observe.
So he makes several different claims as to when he's a state trooper. I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he did at least a year as a state trooper, like he says, which is a probationary period as a state trooper. We've had Deanna Spingola had interviewed a trooper who had been a trooper for 30 years who doesn't believe Halbig at all. So you can go to Spingola's site and listen to that interview. He's a Florida trooper or Florida deputy, I don't remember, but he pretty much laid waste to Halbig. So Halbig often says, oh, if you're a trooper, give me a call and, support me. Well, one of them did call in to Deanna, and he basically said that Halbig sounds like he got all of his information off of TV. So here he claims, oh, we brought in helicopters every day.
And then I noticed no trauma helicopters. I mean, come on. I've been a state trooper. I watch every day, vehicle accidents, heart attack. We got helicopters in the air in a heartbeat.
We know that's not true. But the thing is the main takeaway from that is he doesn't even know what a homicide is. He thinks anytime you're investigating a death, like someone runs into a tree and you pull a body out to investigate that death, that's a homicide. He doesn't even know what a homicide is. A homicide.
Caller, you're on the air.
Well, thank you, Deanna. My name is Wolfgang Halbig, and just want to make a couple comments, if you don't mind. I'm going to send you my resume. Just take a look at it. This is something that I'm very passionate about. And when people talk about Sandy Hook, it really, really bothers me. Because as a former Florida state trooper and being a homicide investigator, every police officer who should be listening to your show and every parent who's listening to your show, every time, it really, really bothers me. Because as a former Florida state trooper and being a homicide investigator...
Do we have another audio that would be revelatory here?
Remember that time when he called into your show and he said, Deanna, let me tell you, this is something that's really important
this is
to
an
me.
illusion.
And being a homicide investigator.
Record, because when you're a Florida state trooper, that's the first thing you do. You learn to deal with homicides. What do you call it when you pull out a dead body out of a car? It's a homicide, you idiot.
The thing to take away from that, is the first thing he says the first thing you learn as a Florida state trooper is how to investigate homicides.
I go through several of his claims that at the Homeland Security FEMA Capstone drill, that's what he claims a shooting of 20 children and 6 teachers is he claims it's a drill put on agencies involved in some drill called Capstone, which is apparently a real drill they do. Takes that label and put it on a shooting and claims that that's what it is now all of a sudden, because he found the name of a real drill and applied it to the Sandy Hook shooting. He now claims that the Sandy Hook shooting is the drill that he pulled out of his hat.
You need to look up the word capstone. I urge you as parents and grandparents, research the word capstone. It is the most dangerous word that I'm starting to see. Homeland Security under, there was a Senator, Lieberman. He's the one that was in charge of putting FEMA and Homeland Security under one umbrella, and they came up with this word capstone. Alex, the American people need to wake up and listen to what these exercises are. If Homeland Security, FEMA, capstone exercise, it starts at the White House, at the president's desk, goes all the way through Congress, to the Attorney General, down through the FBI, all the way to the local government. It is a whole community event. And I think that's what happened at Sandy Hook.
I think the whole event, remember we talked about, I didn't talk to you about it, but it's actually really a Homeland Security FEMA capstone exercise. And in those events, you have a controller, and a controller really, sets timelines on who does what, when, and where, and it's a controlled event. And we're talking about a lot of money that's involved here. They cannot afford to let this thing get exposed.
My research, I try to figure out how can so many people in Newtown and Sandy Hook be involved? And then I found the word capstone. 2012. Google Capstone.
I'm doing it now.
Google Capstone, FEMA Capstone exercises.
You know, John Wells is, while he's Googling up Capstone, you know, he's such a lapdog. Never questions Halbig, never gives Halbig a tough question. Just lobs him up alley-oops so that he can slam him home. And that's because now he's monetarily invested in the man, so he's throwing away all integrity on this issue. He doesn't ask a single thing that could bring any truth to this or in any way shade Halbig wrong, and that's due to his financial bias and his financial investment. And John Wells cannot be trusted on issues related to Wolfgang Halbig because of his investment in Halbig. So Halbig is his speak doll right now. He puts in money and Halbig's mouth moves.
There's a company called Obsidian out of Washington. They're the script writers for Homeland Security. And it starts, a capstone exercise starts at the White. Well, now, you know, for the first time, Alex, we actually have the script. And there's a company called Obsidian that works out of Washington, D.C. Now, that is probably one of the most powerful organizations you need to check out because they're writing all of the scripts. You know, whenever FEMA or Homeland Security has a major crisis or problems, Benghazi, these people are out there writing the scripts.
Funny name, you know, Obsidian means black.
Well, can I tell you what? Now, they're a scary group, and you need to check them out. They wrote the script for saying...
Sure, I want to be clear about Obsidian, though, because I've heard of the group, but I'm not saying they've done anything. It is creepy. It's a black pyramid's their symbol. But if you expand on all this, it's like Hollywood's been asked to write scripts that the CIA later uses in real operations. So they're writing the main scripts, and then they're getting picked up. I mean, that doesn't prove that they somehow were involved just because they wrote the script, right?
Well, I'm not saying I can't prove that they did exactly that. But
about it. I just hear that name and I shudder. Mufasa. Ooh. Do it again. Mufasa. Ooh. Mufasa. Ooh. Mufasa. Mufasa. Ooh, it tingles me.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Here again with Obsidian. I had never heard of them. They demonize this little company that's considered a small business, under 10 million. They do some consulting, and all of a sudden they just label them script writers for the Sandy Hook shooting. They make weird claims like it's a pyramid. It's not a pyramid. It's obviously, to me, it was at least a diamond. But looking at it now, I guess it's a spearhead. But it's not a pyramid. Anyway, this is just Halbig and AJ, and they are misrepresenting facts. And here's Halbig. He wonders why they wonder if he has a pistol. Yeah, I wonder.
And then about a month later, I get two uniformed deputy sheriffs, and their police vehicles come to my house. And when they came in, sat in my office, I think they sort of felt bad, but the thing they were trying to tell me that they got a call from the Newtown police chief. And he wants to know that if I ever come to Newtown, I need to check in at the police station. And that they also want to know if I own any handguns. Go ahead and answer me. They said the Newtown Police Department would like to know when you're coming to Newtown. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell them when I'm coming. That's up for me to decide. And then the next question they asked me is whether I have a handgun or not. And I said, now, you know what? I find that pretty offensive. Why in the world would the Newtown Police Department want to know whether I own a handgun or not?
After coming back from Olive Garden, I mean, there are things that are happening which cause me to go out and buy a handgun. And I am taking precautions. I went back to the range. I'm qualified. I'm a sharpshooter. So it's sad that I have to do these things. I'm 69 years old. I live on a golf course. I don't want to have to worry about somebody trying to do something to me or my family, Richie. For what? Asking simple questions?
This Halbig hoax is funny. This was early on. He used to blast me because I read the report. Oh, you don't need the report. All you need is me. Or something like that was his argument at the time. And so he was trying to convince Vanghele he read the report. He didn't even know what book 6 is. Right, so, and then later he suddenly read it, and so now he knows. But this just shows you that his story changes like the wind. Depending on the day, the sales pitch, It's never consistent. He just flips and flops whatever he can do for his sales pitch du jour.
To read it, you have to read all the attachment. You have to look at all the forensic evidence. You have to look
And
at
so you have read all of the books, all of books.
No, I've read everything that was posted online. I don't know if do you have book? Did you get books? I just read what they gave me online.
Okay, what did you read?
Well, today the incident starts out. 911 call, and you do all of the attachment, all the evidence.
Okay, where did you read?
I only focus at Sandy Hook.
Did you read all of the reports in Book 6?
Yep. I don't know what Book 6 is.
If you had read the reports, you would know what Book 6 is.
I don't even look at the number of the book. I look at each section of the system, okay? You can't just read 9 books and become an expert. You have to live it. You have to touch it. You have to see that. You have to notify people in the middle of the night.
There's 11,000 pages that was released. There are 9 books that talks about everything that happened supposedly at Sandy Hook, and it's within those 9 books.
I don't know what Book 6 is.
If you had read the reports, you would know what Book 6 is.
I don't.
There's 11,000 pages that was released. There are 9 books.
I asked you a question. If you were familiar with Book 6,
I don't categorize it in books.
If you had read the report, you would know exactly what I'm talking about when I refer to the 9 books.
Now, if you read it, then you'd see, well, let me look at
2 years later, after he was thoroughly debunked by me in video, where I named the medics' names, the medics, the paramedics, EMTs, the registered nurse who were in there, the doctor in charge, named them from the report for Halbig. And he still claims there were no EMTs allowed in the school. It's blatantly false information. I told him during the debate. He knows. He knows. He just blatantly says false information.
Never. You see triage, but the school was deemed safe within 50 minutes. But still, through the entire day, they did not let the paramedics or EMTs in. And who declared all of those children and school teachers and principal legally dead in 8 minutes? Remember the first 3 that went in? They're not paramedics. They're not EMTs. They're just police officers. And in Connecticut, the law says only a doctor can declare someone legally dead. You know they never let paramedics and EMTs inside the school the entire day? What if that's your brainchild in there?
You don't hear him saying anything about no lawsuits anymore because several lawsuits have now been filed.
within the first 8 to 11 minutes from the 911 call, the school was deemed completely safe.
He makes up this question that means nothing. Nobody was declared in 8 to 10 minutes. No, there's no answer to his question because the premise is wrong.
Here's the one that's coming that nobody sees. Connecticut has just passed the law, the legislature, that any parent who wants to homeschool their child, now think about all your listeners, who today, they don't trust the school system, so they homeschool their child. In Connecticut, the law now says that if you want to be homeschooling your child has to have a complete mental health examination.
Here, Halbig lies about the law in Connecticut. They did, I think, propose this law. It never went anywhere. It's not law. It's not signed into law. So that's Halbig just misrepresenting facts. Facts don't matter if you can, you can raise a little bit of money off this information, then maybe you don't need facts so much. That can become your opinion when you run an organization that raises money to sue bloggers.
I will not stop.
How much money you need to get this thing rolling?
I think probably $50,000 because you need to hire two different. One attorney cannot do it. John, one attorney needs to look at the crime scene evidence, and the other attorney needs to look at the law enforcement, how they responded.
50,000, 100,000, 200,000. We've heard all the numbers. The numbers change. Everything else about his stories.
Because I'm in pursuit, and guess what? It fooled me, it tricked me, and I missed it.
Oh.
There was actually a script that was written.
Okay, because
and
is that...
the lead actor is Colgren, Sergeant Colgren. The supporting actors are a guy named Vanghele and Steve Burke.
I totally believe it was scripted as well, absolutely. Are you talking about the script that you posted to the Sandy Hook Facebook page about, like, right before you took it offline? Okay, because...
If you pull that report up...
Yeah, well, because, you know, like, because what I'm confused about is, you said it was a transcript of the events, but that exact thing that you say is a transcript, word for word, is actually in Book 4, Document 179629 of the final report. And I'm just confused, because those would be different things, right? If it was in the report, then it's technically not really a transcript.
This is one of Halbig's most absurd stories, that he has Connecticut troopers giving him the scripts. The scripts are simply the radio transcripts from the final report, and he labels them scripts and publishes them on his website. There's a certain level of genius to taking published transcripts of a radio transmission and publishing it on your website and selling it to your followers as scripts that were pre-written. Right? It's not transcripts. These are the scripts they followed. That's why they match, right? And so these conspiracy theorists, they swallow this without hesitation, and they open their wallets and they give him money because he has 2 state troopers that flew him to Connecticut, and they gave him the secret scripts that were the transcripts that were freely available online. They gave it just to Halbig. Oh my God. And you know, it almost makes you want to open your wallet and write him a check. Jeez. I mean, it's almost unbelievable that he's able to get anybody to give him even a penny. I don't understand it, but I mean, to each his own. If you guys want to give him money, I guess that's what you do. The transcripts are pre-written scripts. Here we go.
Thank God those people donated and helped me. I wouldn't be where I'm at today, I'm telling you. But I don't see any of my other friends out there, you know.
Well, there are a lot of people who are actively researching. And I said there are a lot of people who are actively researching and wanting to, you know, get this thing out in the open.
Yeah, but you know what? But remember what those 2 Connecticut state troopers said to me? I mean, I'm not going to give you the names, but they're saying all of the other researchers out there, they're spending their time on Uganda Street. They're out there chasing people in the woods. They're out there. They're going the wrong direction. Look, I have 2 Connecticut state troopers who trusted me, and they called me up and they say, Wolfgang, can you fly to Hartford, Connecticut? We want to show you the scripts that they used on that day. I actually, on my website, posted the script that the Newtown police officers had to use. Now, can you believe that? They had to use a script.
Anyway, this is a big one he raises money off of. This is one of his big things. Go to my website and view the scripts. And he got these scripts from the final report. They're the radio transcripts. But hey, it gets dummies to open their wallets. So I guess that's okay to say then, if that's how you raise money, is by just calling transcripts scripts. You know, it's almost funny that he's able to get these people to buy off on something like that, man. That's talent. He has talent. Halbig has a couple of disgusting endeavors, and one of them involves going after the little children that are sang at the Super Bowl, and he's literally spent thousands going after these children. So I really feel for those families. I will never get involved with trying to debunk that or investigating those families at all. whole little community of many of them being mentally ill conspiracy theorists are chasing after their little children, many of whom believe these children were actually the actors that played the children who got killed at Sandy Hook. That's what they're saying about these people. And they're chasing them. It's one of his more disgusting. And then his other really disgusting thing is that he wants to go and exhume the bodies of children. So, you know, this guy, well.
But I think once we get the first person in under deposition, I think I need to get him in the room. We need to get him in the room where nobody else can be there. It's hard to do it on email. It's hard to do texting. It's hard to do. I mean, nobody answers questions. I just want you to know that.
Sure. Are you able to tell me what the purpose of your trip to Hartford is, or is that something that's private?
No, don't want to let that one get out of the bag.
Okay.
They'll probably arrest me for DUI when I don't drink.
Probably. When you come up to Hartford, is it going to be a short couple of days trip, or are you going to be...
Yeah, it'll probably be 3 days.
3 days? Would you be willing to meet possibly in that time, and maybe...
Yeah, I'm trying to get one of those FLIR systems. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
FLIR. FLUIR. It's one of those ground detection. You can actually see inside the ground what's there.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, you can actually, I'm working with a company right now. They're going to help me, and I think we're going to just take a look in the ground and see what's there.
That's interesting, yeah.
Well, number one, we're not going to disturb anything. We're not going to disturb anything. We're not, it's a simple look. It's just a simple look. It's not disrespectful in any way.
And this would be, is the graves you'd be looking in the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, number one, you have to remember, people who are buried in grounds, decomposition gives off gases, and the gases that is released is based on the size of the body, the length that they've been in the ground, and it really is I just got through testing it in cemeteries, and I'll tell you what, it knocked my socks off.
Wow, yeah, I wasn't familiar with that part. That's a pretty wild thing right there.
Well, you know what? I think that's the only way to ever bring this to closure is you got to take a good look. I mean, do you know how many people in America have been afflicted with emotional distress about this thing? I mean, it's
exhuming one of the bodies to put this thing to closure. America needs to heal. Gary, we got millions and millions of Americans. They're afflicted by emotional distress. This event has caused panic and fear across every public, private, and parochial school. Why? But if it didn't happen, I don't think it happened, or they would have answered my questions. And I think it will take the exhuming of a body to bring this thing to closure, and we get on with our lives.
One of the earliest myths Halbig told, and he's expanded on the story since he began telling it, concerns Lieutenant Vanghele, and he basically claims that Vanghele grabbed a girl and threw her back in a room. And the reality of what happened is quite different. They were aiming their firearms down a hallway, and she stepped into the hallway, and he yelled to the girl to get back into the classrooms. And the report states that she was about 60 feet away. So that's what happened.
I have spent... Because I'm being accused of being a fraud and a scam, I really want to do my due diligence and making sure that I only speak about the facts. And then you have a police officer at 9:45 in the tape. He finds a girl in the hallway. He finds a kindergarten girl in the hallway. And guess what? He sends her back into room 8. Well, the public doesn't understand.
Damn right he is. All right, let's go ahead. Next question. I want to get as many in as we can.
Well, the next question that... is really astounding is that we have a lieutenant from the Newtown Police Department at 9. Remember now, everything I'm saying, these are the police records and what the police reports state. So please don't listen to me. Please read the report. 9:45:42. A lieutenant from the Newtown Police Department is inside Sandy Hook. He sees a female first-grade student in the hallway. Now, what do you think he does with that female student? He grabs her, He pushes her into room 8 and leaves her all alone. Why would a lieutenant, highly trained Lieutenant Vanghele, who's also part of the management staff, why would he, when he's inside the school during the first 7 minutes of this shooting, tragic shooting event, he finds a little girl, are you ready? He finds a little first-grade girl out in the hallway. Mike, he physically grabs her and he shoves her into room 8. Now I want
The incident Wolfgang describes with the little girl happened in the earliest minutes of the response. This incident was partially caught on the 911 call between the dispatcher and the custodian.
Custodian.
All right, tell him you're on the phone with me.
I'm on the phone with dispatch. Victims in the building.
How many?
How many? 2 down.
Okay. Is it safe?
There were only 3 officers in the building at the time of the incident that Halbig has turned into a staple of his sales pitches. These 3 officers are Lieutenant Vanghele, the officer Halbig claims to push or throw or shove the girl, Officer Pena, and Sergeant Bahamandi. Therefore, we must refer to their reports to see if what they wrote jives up with Halbig's claims. Remember, Halbig claims to only be using the statements of the officers when he talks of this incident.
I only use what the police officers write in their action reports and statements. And the reason I bring this up, there's a Lieutenant Vanghele.
Lieutenant Vanghele's mention of this incident is in his report, Book 6, number 2060, and is as follows. I noticed a little girl walk out of the classroom about 60 feet away. I yelled at her to go back into her classroom. She immediately went back into her classroom. She reappeared in the hallway about 30 seconds later, and I told her again to get back in her room. She said, I want to go home. I told her she would be able to go home soon, but right now she needed to go back into her room. And that is all his report mentions of this incident. There is no mention of him grabbing, pushing, shoving, or throwing or touching the girl at all. He clearly states she was about 60 feet away. Sergeant Bahamandi was also present, and his statement is in Book 6, number 44171, and he states, at some point during this, a child came into the hallway from a room in the southwest corridor crying. The little girl stated over and over again she wanted to go home. Lieutenant Vanghele instructed the little girl over and over again to get back into the room. The little girl subsequently retreated back into the classroom. And that is his only mention of the incident. Again, no mention of Vanghele pushing or shoving the little girl. Finally, Officer Pena, Book 6, number 258036, does not mention the Vanghele incident at all. Therefore, where did Halbig get his version of the story? The lack of any mention in the report of Halbig's version suggests that Halbig made it up. He made it up for an emotional story to grab hold of his audience, to hook them and to hoax them, as part of a pitch to raise money for his charity. Okay, Wolfgang, go ahead with your tale, your story. Tell your little story. Hoax your listeners. Let's hear it.
Done. What about bringing the kids back into the so-called death dens?
Alex, at 9:45:31 on the police transmission, you can see a police officer, lieutenant. He sees a little girl in the hallway at Sandy Hook Elementary School. He takes her and pushes her back into room 8. He takes her and pushes her back into room 8.
I only use what the police officers write in their action reports and statements. And the reason I bring this up, there's a Lieutenant Vanghele, Newtown Police Lieutenant, in the hallway, runs into a first-grade little girl. It could be your little girl. He sees her, he grabs her. He opens the door and pushes her into classroom 8. Tells her, get in there, I'll be back when it's safe. Closes the door. Newtown Police Lieutenant, in the hallway, runs into a first-grade little girl. It could be your little girl. He sees her, he grabs her. He opens the door and pushes her into classroom 8. Tells her, get in there, I'll be back when it's safe. Newtown Police Lieutenant, in the hallway, runs into a first-grade little girl. It could be your little girl.
He sees her, he grabs her. He opens the door and pushes her into classroom 8.
For 86 years, Oscar Knight has defined excellence and elegance to a watching world.
I'm very honored to be here tonight.
Well, it's my game tonight.
Oh, it's the Oscars.
It is the Oscars.
Welcome to the Oscars. And the Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to...
The Oscar goes to...
And the Oscar goes to...
Jared Leto. Catherine Martin.
That was nice. The Oscar goes to... Ethan Yongo.
And the Oscar goes to...
Kate Blanchett.
Matthew McConaughey. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, then, how big? Thank you to the Academy for this incredible recognition.
I need all the other people to help me. I mean, I can't be doing this all by myself. I mean, I'm trying to keep my wife happy, my home life stable. My kids don't even believe in me. I mean, I've got grown sons who don't believe in me. I mean, whatever happened to that?
Are you serious?
I never thought that day would come.
Your sons actually think that those kids died and they just don't want to hear it, or?
Yep. They think I'm crazy that I'm even questioning those parents.
Alright, so that's a compilation of Halbig's double talk and absurd statements. I think they needed to be documented for quick reference, and so that's what I did. I put those out. This is CW8, and that's all for now. And I guess if you still want to give Wolfgang some money, why don't you run over to his website and open up your wallet and go pay for some transcripts that were in the final report. This guy. And just know that that money you're giving him is not going to expose Sandy Hook. It's just going to attempt to degrade the First Amendment rights of bloggers. For that, Halbig, I'm going to never let up on you for quite some time. At least for the foreseeable future. So long as you're waging lawsuits against bloggers and people like that and running around hurting people to make money, then I think that a monument needs to be built to you that will stand on the internet for eternity. This is CW8, SandyHookFacts.com. And those are the facts.